Hello, fellow movie, TV, and entertainment fans. This is Ray, and this is the Fandom Realm. It's time for another episode, and just as a reminder, I will only be doing podcasts for the foreseeable future, so if you can't watch, you can also start looking on other podcast outlets. I just want to update the schedule, and the next official podcast release will be the penultimate episode of Rings of Power, Episode 7, and that'll be coming out by Monday. However, I am looking at a new series, and there may be a surprise podcast coming out this weekend. Now, this is episode 12 of the Fandom Realm, and today we're looking at episode 5 of Andor. As always, this is a spoiler review, so just be warned. So I just got through with episode 5 of Andor. Of course, the mainstream media and reviewers are all just falling over themselves to talk about how great this show Andor really is, and how it is so groundbreaking for Star Wars. But I'm sorry, all I see is a Star Wars show with a plot that is plodding along and making zero progress. I'm going to talk about all the storylines, and I'm going to start with the two that really went nowhere. First storyline, and this is actually how we started out the episode, is with our dear Deputy Inspector Syril. We do find out that this is his mom who slapped him across the face. He's returned home, and obviously Mom is disappointed in what he has been doing. This is all framed around him eating what must be his favorite childhood cereal, which sort of looked like maybe blue Cocoa Puffs, and of course it had to have blue milk. Is this the best they can do? I mean, really? This is basically as far as we got on this storyline. Apparently his uncle is going to help him out. How, we don't know, or who his uncle is, we're not real sure. Guess we'll see in the future. Cassian really should have killed him when he had the chance, if for no other reason to save us from this storyline. The second storyline, and maybe the most useless in the entire episode, is with the ISB and Lieutenant Meera, still obsessing over proving there's an organized rebellion. We don't really get anywhere. She does have a colleague who is willing to help out, but other than that, there's no advancement here. One would think 5 episodes in, she might be onto something. The third storyline is following Mon Mothma. We've now been introduced to both her husband and her petulant teenage daughter. Basically, we got to see she has a normal crazy family life outside of being a senator and rebel leader. I guess we did get some character development here, seeing the difficulty she faces at home, not being able to talk about her rebellion activities to her family members. And along with that, it is interesting for us to know that she had a husband and a daughter that she was risking by being a member of the rebellion. And that actually was probably the most positive thing in the episode for me, because it really, when you think about people like Bell Organa and the Organas and Leia and that whole family group, we never got introduced to that with Mon Mothma in any of the original Star Wars. Now, the fourth storyline is Cassian and the rebels, who are eventually going to try to steal this Imperial payroll. But first, I do want to just add Luthen into this storyline as well, because he is the one that recruited Cassian, and he is back at the shop worrying about how everything's going to go down when the rebels attack the base. We spend a lot of time traveling in this episode. Basically, I'm wondering why we always walk places in Star Wars. We have ships, we have animals, but we want to walk. I am liking the character of Karis Nemik, who actually seems to be developing a little bit. I'm sort of liking his character. He is the character who was explaining about technology and that the Empire, basically, to summarize it, is bad because they make people rely on them for everything. I do hope he survives. As one of the younger members of the group, he seems to really have a good idea about what a rebellion means. The members of the rebel group are still hating on Cassian, and he finally breaks, and he tells them that he's actually being paid. Now, he doesn't divulge who is paying him, but this is going to cause issues within the group. Eventually, pretty much everyone seems to be put at ease. It's also going to bring up some issues for the group leader, but she seems to get out of it unscathed. Cassian, earlier in the episode, had a good conversation with Skeen, who was actually going through Cassian's bag while he was asleep. Skeen is shirtless, and they are actually going to have conversations about the tattoos that Skeen has. During this conversation, Skeen is going to basically give us the title of the show or this episode when he talks about the axe forgets, which comes from the proverb, the axe forgets, but the tree does not. Basically meaning that people will never forget what the Empire does to them, and this is the reason why the rebels need the resources they do. They are always going to be fighting back. While all this is happening, we're definitely realizing that these people do not know what they're doing, which is probably partially why Luthen sent Cassian in the first place. I'm definitely interested in how the attack is going to go. They do have an Imperial officer on the inside who is setting things up. I haven't really caught his name. Hopefully, we're in a spot where we can finally attack. So now I need to give this episode a grade. There wasn't much progress. We are 5 episodes in and still don't really have an endgame. They're also wasting important characters like Mon Mothma and Luthen. Again, 5 episodes through, and we barely are touching the surface of those characters. We have to see more of them for this to be a better show. Now, there was some development with the characters that are members of the Rebellion. At least with Cassian, Skeen, and Nemik. Their relationships are going to start to grow, and that's going to, I think, add a lot to this episode. It was definitely the highlight and the top point of this episode. With all that, I'm going to give this episode a C. Wasn't great, wasn't horrible, it was average. Let's look for improvement next week. And with that, it's now time to get out of here. Please subscribe to the channel. Like the video, comment below, and we'll see you next time on the Fandom Realm.